Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. What if that feeling of being different wasn't just imagination, but divine marking? Since childhood, some souls carry invisible imprints that others simply don't possess, signs of a greater calling placed upon them before birth. Jeremiah 1-5 reveals this truth. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. This isn't just ancient scripture. It's the reality many chosen ones live with daily. You've felt it, haven't you? That unexplainable awareness that your life was meant for something beyond ordinary existence. The subtle knowing that your struggles and gifts aren't random, but preparation for divine purpose. If you've always sensed this calling but couldn't explain it, drop 777 in the comments right now. Your spiritual intuition guides you here for revelation. Today, you'll discover the 10 signs you were chosen from childhood, arranged from first whispers to thunderous confirmation. And the final sign? It's what separated Moses from Pharaoh, David from Saul, and what will separate you from those who merely claim their calling but never fulfill it. 10. Singularity. Since you were little, you may have felt different from other children. Perhaps you were more introspective, liked to observe things around you, or had thoughts and feelings that others didn't seem to share. This sense of singularity is like a feeling that you were made for something special, even if you didn't know exactly what it was. While other children played and mixed easily, you might have preferred quieter moments, reflecting or asking deep questions that adults found hard to answer. Maybe you felt that the world around you didn't make as much sense to you as it did to others. You may have even wondered, why do I feel this way? Why doesn't it seem like I belong completely in this place? This feeling, although sometimes lonely, doesn't mean that something was wrong with you. In fact, it's a sign that you were set apart for a greater purpose. This difference is not a flaw, but a mark. It's as if God had left a sign on your soul, showing that your life has a special meaning. A child who feels this way may be one who, even without understanding why, feels a need to care for others, to help or protect someone. This shows a sensitive heart prepared for something greater. 9. Consciousness. Since you were little, you may have noticed that you saw the world differently. It seemed like your senses were more alert, picking up on details that others missed. This heightened perception was not something you could fully explain or understand, but it was as if you were tuned into something greater, something beyond what your eyes could see. Perhaps while other children were distracted by games or everyday situations, you noticed emotions in people, gestures, or even subtle changes in the environment. It was as if you had a special sensitivity to perceive things that were not so obvious to those around you. This consciousness was not just about observing, but also about feeling. You could pick up a different atmosphere in places, or even intuit that something was about to happen, even without concrete proof. Proverbs 20:27 reminds us, "The human spirit is the lamp of the Lord that searches all the inner parts of a person." This passage reminds us that God often guides us through this inner perception, using our sensitivity to show us paths or alert us to important situations. Recognizing this heightened consciousness is an essential step in understanding your purpose. It is a tool given by God so that you can fulfill the mission for which you were set apart, allowing you to see beyond appearances and perceive what truly matters in your journey. 8. Empathy. One of the clearest signs that you were chosen is the ability to deeply feel the emotions of those around you. Since childhood, you may have noticed that you were different from others in this respect. While many ignored or didn't notice what others were feeling, you seemed to pick up on these emotions as if they were your own. This sensitivity was not something superficial, but an opening of the heart to understand and embrace what was happening around you. Perhaps you remembered moments when someone was sad or distressed, and even without that person saying anything, you knew they needed comfort. It was as if you were able to see beyond words, feeling the pain or joy of others as real as if it were your own. This unique empathy is not just a personality trait, but a spiritual gift that prepares you to help, care, and serve. Perhaps you felt the need to comfort someone even without knowing exactly what was happening. This extraordinary empathy reflects the love of God that works in your heart, molding you to be a source of comfort and hope for others. But there's an even more powerful sign coming later that shows not just how you perceive difficulties, but how you overcome them. 7. Premonitions. From an early age, many chosen children experience striking and intense dreams, or even premonitions that come true over time. These events do not occur by chance. They are clear signs that something greater is at work in their lives. These dreams, often laden with deep meanings, are like messages that point to the special purpose for which they were destined. Perhaps you can remember a dream that seemed much more real than any other. It may have been so clear that it remained in your memory for years. Or who knows, you may have had that inexplicable feeling that something was about to happen and then saw it come to fruition exactly as you imagined. Tyler Perry, for example, has shared stories of divine dreams and visions that guided major life decisions, including building his studio empire. He often speaks about how these spiritual prompts helped him persevere when everything around him suggested giving up. These moments, although difficult to understand in childhood, were manifestations of your connection with the divine. Often these dreams come with a sense of comfort or direction, as if they were a reminder that you are not alone on your journey. The Bible talks about how God uses dreams to communicate with us in Job 33:15-16. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men while they slumber on their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. 6. Protection. Since childhood, you may have experienced moments when you seem to be inexplicably protected, situations where, in the face of some danger or unexpected event, something beyond the natural seemed to intervene, ensuring your safety. This feeling that a greater force was taking care of you was not by chance. Perhaps you can recall episodes where you narrowly escaped an accident or a complicated situation that surprisingly resolved in your favor. You may have felt an invisible presence at your side, as if it were a guardian ensuring that nothing serious would happen. This protection, present from an early age, is a reflection of God's care for those He has chosen to fulfill a special purpose. Psalm 91:11 tells us, "For He will command His angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways." This promise reminds us that God appoints His protection for those who have an important role in His plan. Recognizing this feeling of divine protection is understanding that your journey is not being traveled alone. As we get closer to the most powerful sign, remember that protection is God's gift, but the final sign we'll discuss is what you develop within yourself through these divine encounters. 5. Connection. Since you were little, you may have felt that God was very close, like a faithful friend walking by your side. This sense of closeness was not by chance or your imagination. It was a clear expression of divine love manifesting itself in a special way in your life. Perhaps you can remember moments when you talked to God in a simple way, as if He were right there listening to every word, even without audible answers. Many chosen children have this perception where the connection with God becomes something natural, almost like a friendship. In times of difficulty, you may have experienced a peace that made no sense given the circumstances. Perhaps in the midst of a chaotic situation, a feeling of tranquility and protection would envelop you, bringing the assurance that you were not alone. These episodes are signs that God has always been present, guiding and strengthening you from an early age. This close relationship with God is one of the greatest gifts a chosen one can experience. Embrace this relationship with God and allow it to continue to grow, being the foundation for facing challenges and fulfilling the mission for which you were set apart. 4. Challenges. From a young age, the chosen ones tend to face situations that make them feel different. Perhaps you noticed, even as a child, that you didn't fit in completely among your peers or even in your own family. This feeling of not belonging may have been painful and lonely, but at the same time, it was essential to shaping who you are today. These challenges did not arise by chance. They were part of the preparation process for the greater purpose you were called to fulfill. Often this feeling of isolation makes you see the world more deeply. While others followed the flow of everyday interactions, you might have questioned things that few considered. Oprah Winfrey, for example, overcame childhood poverty, abuse, and discrimination to become one of the most influential voices in media. She later recognized these challenges as preparation for her purpose, using her painful experiences to connect with millions and bring healing to others. This kind of reflection, although uncomfortable, broadened your understanding of life and the people around you. It is in these moments of solitude and introspection that God works in our hearts, developing the inner strength needed to overcome obstacles and understand the complexities of the human condition. These challenges you faced were preparing you for something greater. In fact, they directly connect to our number 1 sign, which reveals how the chosen ones turn their pain into purpose. 3. Fascination. From a young age, you may have shown an unusual interest in stories that transcended the ordinary. While many children were drawn to fairy tales or fictional adventures, perhaps you preferred to hear accounts of courage, faith, and sacrifice. Stories of martyrs, spiritual leaders, or people who faced great adversity to fulfill a greater purpose captured your attention in a special way. This fascination was not just a preference, but a reflection of the unique calling that God placed in your life, preparing you to be a light in a world often overshadowed by doubt and fear. This early interest in figures of faith may have begun with biblical stories. Perhaps the courage of David in facing Goliath touched your heart, showing that with faith in God, it is possible to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Or who knows, the perseverance of Noah, who obeyed God and built the ark amidst everyone's skepticism, may have inspired your determination. Hebrews 12:1 reminds us, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." This passage reminds us that the faith stories of others are beacons that encourage us to continue our own journey. If you identified with these stories from an early age, it was more than just a simple preference. It was a preparation for your calling. God was shaping your heart to be an inspiration, someone who could live with the same courage and dedication that so fascinated you. 2. Curiosity. From an early age, you may have been that child who asked difficult questions that adults didn't always know how to answer. Questions about the purpose of life, the reason for suffering, or even who God is often arose in your mind. This curiosity was not just childish, but a sign that you had a special connection with the divine and a soul destined to seek deeper answers than the ordinary. Perhaps you have wondered what happens after death, why bad things happen to good people, or how the world was created. While other children were satisfied with simple answers, you wanted more. This search for understanding was like a flame burning within you, fueling your need to discover truths that transcended the obvious. Denzel Washington has spoken openly about his spiritual curiosity from a young age, questioning deeper meanings and purpose that later informed his career choices and philanthropy. His journey of faith began with questions that led him to search for God's purpose in his life. This thirst for spiritual knowledge was not just natural, but an indication that God was already planting seeds of purpose in your heart. The Bible encourages this search in Proverbs 2-3-5. If you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Music softens, tone becomes more solemn. We've now reached the most powerful sign of all, the one that separates those who are merely called from those who fulfill their destiny. This final sign is what has sustained prophets, martyrs, and spiritual leaders through their darkest moments. 1. Resilience. Perhaps in childhood, you overcame challenges such as the loss of a loved one, financial difficulties, or family problems. Even if those times were painful, they shaped you, preparing you to face even greater situations in the future. This resilience is like spiritual armor that helps you keep going even when the weight seems too great. It is not easy to understand, but the difficulties you have faced were not in vain. Every obstacle overcome has made you stronger, more prepared, and more capable of fulfilling the purpose God has for you. James 1:12 promises, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." The resilience you demonstrate is a reflection of the divine plan that is at work in your life. Be grateful for this strength that often seems to come out of nowhere. It is a reminder that you are never alone and that God will always be by your side, even in the most difficult battles. Use this strength to keep moving forward, knowing that each overcoming brings you closer to your destiny as a chosen one. Conclusion. Recognizing these signs in your life is just the first step in a journey that is constantly unfolding. Each phase of your story brings new revelations, challenges, and opportunities for spiritual growth. Moments that seemed insignificant in childhood can take on new meaning as you advance in your walk with God. That imaginary friend you talked to may have been a spiritual guide sent to watch over you. The times when you escaped difficult situations without a logical explanation were, in fact, divine interventions. Being chosen does not mean having a life without difficulties. On the contrary, your journey is marked by challenges that shape your character, just as gold is refined by fire to become purer and more valuable. These moments of trial are not punishments, but stages of learning and strengthening. They serve to prepare you for the greater purpose that God has reserved for you. If you recognize these signs in your own story, know that this is no coincidence. You are part of a divine plan that is being revealed every day. Share your experience with others who are also discovering what it means to be chosen. Your story can inspire and strengthen those who are still at the beginning of this journey. Let your light shine brightly, illuminating the path for those around you and reflecting God's love in every step you take. This light is not just for you, but for everyone who seeks to find their purpose. Comment below if you recognize these signs in your childhood. Let's share, learn, and grow together on this blessed journey. Amen.